There's one thing that stops young men from succeeding more than anything else, and it's something that your parents, your father in particular, should have warned you about. And that one thing is that you shouldn't be chasing women. Chasing a woman, especially in your early years, during your teenage development, as a young adult, before the age of 25, before you're established, can ruin your entire life. It's one of the major things that stops young men from reaching their goal. The obsession with chasing women, with chasing cheap sexual interactions. And I wish that when I was growing up, my dad had told me the truth, the reality of how chasing women for sex can ruin your entire life. But he didn't. Unfortunately, he taught me the opposite. And I'm pretty sure that your dad taught you the opposite too. And maybe that's the reason why you're not reaching your goals in life right now, because you're focused on the wrong thing. As a young man, you have so much potential. There's so much you can do, so much you can build, so much you can learn, so much you can create. But instead of following your path in life, instead of skill stacking and getting to the next level, you're too focused on having sex and flaunting it in front of other men because you've been taught this from a young age. But in reality, your value doesn't come from how many women you sleep with. Your value comes from what you create and what you bring back to the community. And I wish I had learned that lesson as a young man. Unfortunately for me, I wasted my teenage years. I wasted my early 20s chasing women, having random sex, empty, vacuous sex that left me more alone and more depressed. And in my heart, having resentment against women, thinking that they were all easy, that they weren't worth it, that they couldn't be trusted. All of this stemming from the one fact that my parents never taught me the truth. They never told me that I needed to follow my own vision. They never told me that I needed to focus on myself. They never told me that I needed to create and build something. But I'm here today. If you haven't heard that message from your dad, from your mom, I know a lot of you guys don't have dads in the house, so you need to hear it from a complete stranger, unfortunately. I'm here to tell you that you need to focus on yourself. Stop trying to impress other men by the amount of women that you get. Stop thinking that that's a flex. And I fall into this too. The glorification of empty sex and lust. It has our society in a vice grip. And we need to change the culture. Anybody who's watched my content, especially the live streams, know I love going on rants, telling you guys about the glory days, when I was wiling, when I was a full-on demon in the streets. But that really shouldn't be something that you should be proud of. Because at the end of the day, chasing those women, having that sex, it didn't get me anything. The only thing it got me was a free trip to the hospital. But let's not get into that. Bottom line is you need to be following your vision. And the problem is that if you're so focused on obtaining sexual gratification, it means you're not focused on learning who you are as a person. You're not building up your skills. You're not learning new things. You're not meeting the people you need to meet. You're wasting your time meeting women that are not, I don't want to say not worth anything, but in reality, a girl that's dancing around in the club who's willing to sleep with almost anyone really isn't worth that much to you. I envy the incels, the guys who can't get women. But unfortunately, those guys are lost too, because instead of them focusing on themselves, they obsess over the fact that they can't get women when they should be celebrating. If you can't get a woman, if women aren't looking at you, if you just don't have that riz, you're lucky. Now you can focus 100% of your energy on yourself, on learning who you are, on building up your skills so that you can make money and become successful in this world. Because chasing women is not going to make you successful. It's not going to change your life for the better. It can only bring you bad situations, drama, chaos, all negative vibes that will pull you down and stop you from reaching your full potential. Before you know it, you're getting arrested because some woman called the cops on you, domestic abuse. Before you know it, you're getting beat up by some chick's brother. Before you know it, you're jumping out of a window. Her husband's chasing you down the street. Before you know it, you have 3 baby mamas. All of your money's going to child support. This is not the way. And the problem comes from the dads. It really does, from the fathers. Because most fathers aren't telling their sons to lock in. They're not telling their sons about how the world really works. They're not explaining to their sons how to find themselves, how to build, how to create, how to communicate. They're not teaching their sons anything that's going to bring them value in this life. They're telling their kid, go talk to that girl. Go get her, son. They're confusing their priorities. And this only ends one way, with you being a mediocre person. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you end up in prison or dead. Chasing women will get you into all kinds of weird situations. Before you know it, you're driving to some house that you've never been to meet some girl. You get robbed. You get killed. Before you know it, she's making you do drugs. She's influencing you. You know, in school, they always talk about peer pressure. And they always make it sound like the peer pressure is going to come from the fellas. But it's a lie. In my life, I've never been peer pressured by the fellas. Because when they said, oh, hit this blunt, Scott, drink this beer, Scott, do this, Scott, do that, I would ignore them. I didn't care. But when a woman comes up to you and says, hit this blunt, forget the blunt, take this acid, do this line of cocaine. It is extremely hard for you to be like, no, I'm not going to do that, because you don't know who you are and you're focused on getting her validation because you want to have sexual intercourse. But the root of the problem is your urge, your lust for the sexual intercourse. If you knew who you were and you know what your priorities are, you wouldn't be falling into those types of temptations, because you wouldn't even be hanging out with that girl. You would be locked in building something in your house, coming up with the next idea, the next Facebook, the next Google, the next OpenAI. But instead of doing that, you're running the streets trying to get some pussy. This doesn't end well for you. And it's hard to tell you not to do this because everybody else in society is telling you the opposite. Everybody's telling you not to focus on yourself, to be a consumer, to be lust driven, to chase the woman. That's your duty. And to a certain degree, it is true. That is your biological imperative. But I promise you that if you wait and you lock in and you figure out who you are, you find your passions, you build something that brings value back to the community, you get your money up, you get your social status up, you'll have the pick of the litter at that point. You won't need to chase women because they'll come to you. Any guy who's under the age of 25 that doesn't have his life together, who's out there in the club, he's out there roaming the streets, he's chasing women, will never reach their full potential. And before they know it, they're in their 30s, they're in their 40s, they're working at McDonald's still, putting the fries in the bag. They wasted their most valuable time chasing women. Women will always be there for a man. It doesn't matter what age you are, 18, 20, 30, 40, 50. If you have your skills up, if you have your shit together, there will always be women for a man. So there is no reason for you to rush it, jump the gun, put the cart before the horse, and waste your 20s, waste your early 30s, chasing pussy for literally no reason. And the worst part is, after you've done all of this, after you slept with hundreds of women, you don't even remember the experiences. There's times where I sit thinking about the past, I can't even remember the girls. It's all a blur, which means it didn't have absolutely any value. That time chasing women, spending money going here and there, that could have been spent traveling the world, getting experiences that last, memorable experience. That money, that time could have been spent building something, a company. If I had locked in earlier in my life, I would be a multimillionaire right now instead of a multi-thousandaire. Instead of a multi-thousandaire. But unfortunately, my parents never taught me this lesson. My uncles never taught me this lesson. Nobody led by example. They all told me the opposite. They all were chasing women as grown adults. And as a child, I watched them and I imitated. Like I said, it's not going to be worth it in the end. Never be worth it. And to the incels, the guys that can't get any women, you need to lock in too. You need to shift your focus away from the fact that you can't get any women and focus on yourself. Focus on your goals. You should be ahead of us. You should be celebrating and counting your lucky stars that women don't want you. Because if women don't want you, there's nothing else for you to do other than lock in. Stop complaining. Stop being the victim. Stop coming on the internet making content about how you're so ugly and you have to look max, and focus on money maxing. Focus on starting that business. Focus on getting on the next level so that you can come back and you can mog the jocks and the guys that got girls, because you'll have all the money in the world. You'll have all the power in the world. You'll be the person making the rules. The Bill Gates of the world, the Jeff Bezos of the world, the Elon Musks of the world. Those guys are not attractive models. They're chopped, but they're rich as fuck. And that's my point. And I don't know when the culture shifted from nerds and incels focusing on themselves to them focusing on the fact that they can't get women. But as long as you're focusing on the fact that you can't get women, you'll never be a Bill Gates. You'll never be a Mark Zuckerberg. When you're rich, when you're powerful, you can do whatever you want. That's what you're missing. You should be celebrating. Lock in. And if you really pay attention, the incels that lock in and become successful, they get whatever they want in life. They're ugly as fuck. Chop this fuck on a yacht, on a private jet with hella bad bitches because they locked in. Stop being the victim. This victim mindset is what's holding you back. And I'm going to have to make a whole nother video on that, but that's a different topic. My point in this video is that you shouldn't be chasing women. You should be focusing on yourself because that's the only way you're going to get to the top. And if you're a father and you have a young son, you better teach him this lesson. This whole obsession driven by lust, where people want to look smacks and they want to rizz up girls and they think that that's the maximum achievement in life, is foolishness. It's nonsense. It only lasts for a little bit of time anyway. Even if you're that guy, you took the super soldier serum and you're jacked, Captain America over here, and you're getting all the girls, that only lasts a few years. If you don't skill stack, if you don't got any skills, experience, money, influence, at some point, that's going to wear off. And then what are you going to do? You're going to be a lonely old man with nothing to show. And you're still going to end up at McDonald's putting the fries in the bag. The only thing you'll have is some stories that you can barely remember. Lock in. Do better. Let's change society for the good. I'm out. Peace.